Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you, featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
My name is Susan Brender, and today I have an unusual guest on my show who's really suffered a lot from when she was very small. She was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti on October 22nd, 1986, and adopted by an American family at age 4. Now, while she was living in Haiti, she says she remembers some of her past, and it's not a good past. It reflects a lot of different issues for a small child. Now, to this day, she doesn't eat breakfast, if you could believe it or not, because she remembers what it was like in the orphanage that she was put in many, many, many years ago. So I want to welcome Danielle de Haiti to my show to talk about her story. So Danielle, you have an unusual story, at least a story that I think is unusual for our audience, and I want you to tell them the whole thing because it's fascinating, and at the same time it's very sad. So let's hear what happened to you starting from your early life.
Thank you so much for having me today. And yeah, my story just has so many rolling hills, as I kind of refer to them, ups and downs. And like you said, I started in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I was there only for just about 4 years of my life, but even in those small 4 years, there was a lot that had happened. My father was a very well-known pastor in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and he had me with a lady in the congregation, and at that time, since he was so well known, he did not want anybody to know that he had a baby with a woman in the congregation. So he did not want me there. He did not want me around, and he asked my mother multiple times to get rid of me, but she wouldn't do that.
Danielle, isn't that an unusual thing for a pastor? Didn't he have empathy for you?
I know. It's like not only for a pastor, but for a father, too. It's just very unusual, no empathy, just really focused on his status and what everybody would think of him. And
that sounds it must have broken your heart.
When I found out the truth, it did, because when I was adopted, I'm going a little further, but when I was adopted, I was told my father loved me very much. He couldn't take care of me, and the reason he got rid of me is because he didn't have enough money to take care of me. My mother was dead, so he had no help. That was the story that he told me. That was the story that he told the orphanage, and that was the story that my adopted family knew. So this is what I grew up thinking. My father loved me. If he could have taken care of me, he would have. And I just tried to cling to the hope of maybe seeing him again, and just what a courageous decision he made to get rid of his child, his daughter. And this is what I felt.
You know, it's an interesting thing. As I listen to you talk about your father, I say to myself, you know, how dare he let go of a beautiful child like you and set you on a path that may not have been at the beginning something good. Now, this is what I want to know, Danielle. You talked a little bit about rebels coming to the orphanage. Tell us about that. I mean, not everybody suffers in that way. I mean, rebels? What are rebels? And
yeah,
how does that affect you?
These were kind of the people who went against the government of Haiti. Now, I was in Haiti during almost one of the worst times of being in Haiti. There was a lot of killing going on, a lot of shooting, and the rebels were basically the people who didn't agree with the government, and they were taking matters into their own hands, and they would come in. And we already knew, so the people of the orphanage already knew, if this happens, children, this is what you do. And so I remember them coming in with machetes and shotguns, and they came into the court of the orphanage, and all of us kids ran. I hid underneath the bed with another girl that was in the orphanage with me, and we just hid there until hopefully they could have handled the situation calmly and no blood was shed, because at this time that's what could have happened.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but, I'm just thinking about your father and your mother and what went through their minds as the rebels came and took advantage of the people in the way that they did. Do you recall having any conversations with them about this?
I did not have any conversations with them about this because at this time my mother did not know where I was. My father came and took me from my aunt, said he would be back, never came back. And my mother had no idea where I was. And that is when my mother and I split, and we did not see each other for over 20 years later. And my father at that time, he did not come to the orphanage very often because he actually made money from this. And I have learned that's kind of what my father was always in, to make money.
He sold you for $50 to a taxi driver?
Yes. So he got rid of me, and in his way of getting rid of me, he sold me and to a taxi driver. And that taxi driver, though, his wife, which I call her Mommy Sylvester because she took care of us, she's the one who took care of us, and she's the one who had the orphanage.
So in some sense, what you're saying is you were very lucky, because
I was.
He could have been a rapist, he could have been a pedophile, yes. Who knows what he could have been, and who knows what she could have been. But it turns out that they raised you in a good home.
Yes, exactly. I was very lucky. I got into this orphanage, and the orphanage director, Mommy Sylvester, was very good to us. I do have a good memory from there too. Her mother, who used to live there, she would bring us into the room and give us one piece of candy, and it made all of us kids just so excited when we, it was that love that we got that none of us had at that time, really. We were all these kids in an orphanage, and no parents, and they told us, the orphanage told us, you're going to be adopted by a white family. And we would say, Mama Blanc, Papa Blanc, just white mother, white father, and we were going to be excited because this meant we had hope. This meant we, would get through this, and this was hope for us.
Yes, I hear you. Now, let me ask you something. There is a lot of controversy over the situation where white people adopt black people and black people adopt white people, and, different races cross all lines. Now, when you were adopted by the whites, was there a different sort of way that your parents treated you and the community treated you? How did that affect you, and what was that like?
I think, again, in this way, I was very lucky. Not everybody was as lucky as I, but for me, I was lucky because my mother and my father understood that they were adopting not only a black child, but they were adopting a child from another country. They were very good at having me. I had black dolls. I had they got me the little cookbooks, Southern cookbooks, because I loved to cook as a child. They were good at doing my hair, and even my father learned how to do my hair. I remember my dad braiding my hair.
Oh, wonderful. So,
yeah,
as you said, you were super lucky.
Yes,
and
I was
want
lucky.
To emphasize again that I want people in our audience to understand what it's like when a child has experienced what you've experienced and then finds out that her mother is alive and her father sold her.
Yes. This was a shock to me, and I to this day get chills when I think about this because I had thought for so many years this father loved me, and he did what he did out of love. And when we used to have Haitian family camps, and I met with Mommy Sylvestre, and she pulled me to the side, and she said, by the way, your father came into the orphanage. And at this time, because I found out when I was 6 to 8 that my father was killed, so I was shocked. I was like, wait a minute, no, my father's dead. And she goes, no, he's alive. He was hiding from the government. And so I sent out letters, I sent out pictures, I gave my email address in hopes of he'll come back. And so he did come back to the orphanage. He got all my information, and then he emailed me. And during these emails, I could tell he was trying to get money from me.
Oh, wow.
And but at that point in time, I was okay with it because I thought, well, this is my dad, and, you know, he loves me. Let me do what I can do. But then he asked for a little bit more money to give to my mom as well. And that's when I was like, wait a minute. Okay, you can't be my dad because my mom is dead. Like, I've known this almost my whole life. My mom died from cancer. She had a tumor. You know, this is what I was told.
Yeah. So it was not true.
Yeah. So but I have a very, very vivid, huge scar on my left hand that I was burnt when I was a child in Haiti by iron. And he said, you have a scar on your left hand. And he told me exactly how it happened. And that's when I knew.
Danielle, tell our audience if you knew what happened. I want to hear exactly what happened.
So at this time, I still didn't know what happened. Through times, I finally got a hold of my family. I reached out to them. I set my mom and my aunt to come and visit me, and that's when I found out. My mother said, I never knew where you were. Your father took you, and he never came back. And then when she tried to look for me, he said that I was dead. And the family was going to have a funeral for me, but they didn't have a body. And a body is very important to us. And so they didn't have a body, so they didn't have the funeral. I sat down with her. I had my biological mother, my auntie, and I had my biological mother, my adopted mother, and my adopted father, and we all sat together and we were talking. And I showed her the video of when they came to pick me up, and she said, I know exactly where that orphanage is. That orphanage is very close to where I lived. If I knew you were there, I would have walked there and taken you home.
Wow.
But she never knew that that's where I was.
What a horror that must have been for you. Now, do you feel that any of these circumstances have taught you anything now?
And, you know, through going through life and going through this, I went through a time where I felt like I could not trust anybody, even the people that are closest to you. A father who's supposed to love you and protect you turned his back on me. And it hurt for a very long time, and to this day. But I feel like these circumstances have made me stronger. These circumstances have made me want to understand people, because people sometimes lash out in ways that we don't understand, and we want to judge or condemn them. And now that I have seen, you know, in ways that I have become angry in the past and had to get through that anger, there's usually reasons why people feel the way they do.
Sure.
There's usually a story behind there. And it's opened my mind to want to hear them out, hear their story, hear where their pain is coming from, than just judging people from their actions.
You know, Danielle, I'm curious about something. When you were in the orphanage, of course you were very young, but what did you experience in the orphanage with regard to the people or the young people that you met? Did they talk about their stories, and were their stories anything like yours, or worse, or better? What was the situation there?
Yeah, I've met, we used to have a Haitian family camp, and that was a lot of us kids from the same orphanage getting together. And I used to do this every year. And so, you know, the kids and I would talk at that time. But again, at that time, I didn't fully know my story. So I didn't know that my story was a lot more than what I thought it was at that time. So when I talked to them, it was just, oh, my father loved me but couldn't take care of me. So that was kind of, a lot of our stories. We had family members who died, parents who died, couldn't take care of us. Also during this time in Haiti, a lot of kids were just being left on doorsteps, left on orphanage doorsteps, because there was such a war in Haiti going on at this time. And so, a lot of kids were just left as well. And no connection to their past.
No connections at all. Now, all right, so we now know what it was like for you and how your father treated you and how your mother found you, which was spectacular to hear that. Now, it sounds like you have so much hope and you want to share it with so many people. And don't you think that for you it's a catharsis, it's a way to kind of get rid of some of the rage, some of the anger, some of the sadness that you had, and it should be in a book. I mean, it's just a wonderful and a very interesting story.
Yeah.
So, tell us what that's about for you.
Yeah, it is important to me to reach out to as many people as I can, because a lot of people have their stories out there, and it is so easy to give up or to be in that feeling of hopelessness or sadness. And I want to reach out to people and say, keep stepping forward, keep reaching out, keep doing what you're doing. Because for me, as not only for myself, but I have 2 children, I'm also a single mother. So it's important to me, it's important for us to do it for our kids, for ourselves. And so, that's very important to me, to reach out to as many people as I can, with people who have had trauma, had abuse, had, so many things go on in their life.
Yes.
And it's hard to get through all that sometimes. And sometimes you just need someone to be like, you can do this.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Go to the next part of your life. You got married, correct?
Yes.
And right now, you're divorced.
Yes.
Now, I hate to, put you on a spot, but what I want to know is, when you met your husband, what did you expect? Did you expect him to be like your father? Did you expect him to take care of you? What was that like for you?
I think for me, when I met him, I was very young, and we met and we thought, oh, this is exciting. We have so much good time together. This is fun, and I think we were just kind of immature. But for me, I was taught from a young age, marriage is you stick in it, you go through the good and bad, and you just stay married. And at times that's true, but at times there's times when you can't stay married. And it was a very, very hard decision for me when I needed to realize I can't stay married anymore. I can't do this anymore. This is not good for me or the kids.
I see. Now, did you have a job? Did you go to school?
When we were married, I was very interested in going to school, but he had a lot of things that he was doing, so I was actually paying for his school and paying for him to do things. And one thing, he did work. He did always have a consistent job, but I was pregnant when we broke up with our second child, and I was supposed to be on bed rest. I have very, very high-risk pregnancies, so I had to quit work, and I was supposed to try and be on bed rest as best as I could. Yeah. But when he was gone so much, and I had a 2-year-old, so it was very hard to be on bed rest.
Oh, my goodness. So life was really painful, even from the beginning. It's terribly painful. Now, what did you learn from it?
I think when you get through a situation like this, you learn how strong you can be. And I have learned that I don't give up. I will not give up, and I keep going. Going through the shelter stage in my life was very hard. You're in a shelter with people that are all walks of life. Some people are just like me, where we just lost everything, and we had to start over in life. And some people were on drugs and alcoholics, and protecting your children in that kind of situation was very hard. I remember I had nightmares afterwards for a long time.
Oh, my goodness. Now, let's talk about your kids for a minute. You've been through so much, as you told me. I mean, a tremendous amount. And now you have 2 kids. With knowing that life was difficult for you, is there something from the beginning that you teach your kids? How do you handle the situation where, again, you got divorced? Does that affect your kids? Do you have a way to kind of deal with them so that they grow up feeling proud, feeling happy, feeling all the feelings that you would love to have?
Right. And my biggest thing is because I didn't feel loved so much when I was younger because of, my father gone, then my mother gone. And so one huge thing, and then my husband gone, one huge thing I try and always make sure they know is I love you. I say that constantly to them. And because I am a single mom, I feel like I also have very independent children as well, because I want them to learn to be strong in a world that can be extremely hard on you. And in a world where you don't know what might come your way, but you have to be willing and able to have that attitude where no matter what comes, to make it through. And so I try and teach them to be strong. And I think that gives you perseverance and strength.
Yeah.
Danielle,
really, how do you support yourself?
Well, I am working right now at a job, and I also go to school because I'm going to school to try and be a PA. So I have a few things going on.
To become a PA?
Yes.
That is incredibly wonderful.
Yeah, so I love where I work. I work at a dermatology place, and I'm a nurse there, and so it's just been really great, and I've learned to really love the doctors and the PA there, and so I am trying to strive to be that myself.
Did you ever think about writing a book or creating a movie with someone who can, facilitate it?
I've been told by so many people that I need to write a book. Writing is not my strongest area, but yes, I would love to. If someone presented that in a way to me where I felt like it would be a really good project, I would love to do that.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you can actually do something very important for people, because when they learn about your story, they realize there's hope, and hope is essential in life. Here's the thing I'd like you to talk about, Danielle. I always give my guests the last word, because I know that there's things on your mind that you want to spread all over the world. So if you have an opportunity, which I'm giving you, please give us the last word.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for having me. But I just want to let people know, I think through all of this, what I continue to learn and continue to work at myself is, one, forgiveness. Even if those people never ask you forgiveness, I will never get that from my father, but I forgive him for giving me up. And I always say in life, what is the pros, what is the cons? Because there's pros and cons to everything. The sad thing was my father gave me up. But the good thing is I have been able to have a life like this. I have my 2 children that I love very much, and I am stronger because of it all.
Wow.
And when you find that strength, that is what makes you know that you can do this.
Well, I want to thank you for telling your story. It's quite a story, actually, and I really appreciate that you've been on the Susan Brender Show. It's enlightenment. to listen to you, Danielle. So thank you again for being my guest on my show, and come back, because I'm sure there's going to be another chapter in your life. So Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to The Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.